Bye, Bob. Hi, Bob. And welcome to WDW UK NEWSCAST, the pod. Hello, and my name's Danny, and there's been a Christmas miracle. And joining me to discuss that Christmas miracle is Andy.
Hello, everyone.
And Lewis.
Hey, guys.
Bob's gone, and Bob's back.
Yeah.
Party time, people. Party time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that live under a rock, we are obviously going to be discussing Bob Chapek being fired from the Walt Disney Company as CEO and Mr. Robert Iger returning to the company for at least 2 years as CEO. I mean, we know. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on the matter? We'll dive straight into it. We'll dive straight into this. What are your guys' thoughts? The whole Chapek scenario and Iger coming back. What are your thoughts on it?
I think the board realised they made one hell of a mistake in allowing Paycheck to be CEO. I mean, you said it yourself, Dan. Well, I can't remember we were talking about this, but you can't run Disney as a statistician. You can't base it purely on numbers. You've got to understand the emotion, the people, what drives people. And he, I'm sure he's a really nice human being to know, but I don't begrudge anybody a CEO job because I can only imagine how difficult that is. But I just don't think he was doing what the company needed. I mean, anybody who follows the stock market will know that since Bob Chapek took over, the Disney stock took a 40-point nosedive. That's not including any loss for, the potential loss of revenue through COVID. It took a 40-point nosedive. I haven't seen that since Mark Zuckerberg started calling Facebook, and that took a nosedive and wiped $4 billion off its profit. It's just, he wasn't the right man for the job. And again, to put it back to money, Bob Iger is announced as the new CEO interim for the next 2 years to find his successor, which whoever that may be, Josh DeMero, for example. And the points on the stock recovered 10 points within a matter of minutes.
It shot back up over $100, $100, just over $100 a share after the news broke that Iger was returning as CEO. So and it was low.
Yeah, that stock voters' confidence in one person against another.
Yeah. Lewis, you were a big fan of Chapek, so take it away.
Well, I wasn't really, was I?
No,
not really. No.
You never said.
So, I mean, first of all, when I woke up on Monday morning and saw that news that had come out about 3 hours beforehand, so it was overnight for us in the UK, I was shocked. I was genuinely shocked because they'd only just extended his contract.
3-year contract extension.
3-year contract. I mean, about 3 months ago.
Yep.
So somebody dropped the ball there, the board basically, and it was. I just think there's been a complete comedy of errors throughout this whole process. And I think Bob Iger clearly realised that he had made a mistake very early on when he had sort of said, "Oh, Bob Chapek is going to be my successor," and there's obviously been a lot of behind the scenes politics going on there as well, and I don't know. I think what Andy said was absolutely right, though. You can't run Disney, the Walt Disney Company, on data. Mm-hmm. There has to be an element of, tugging on the heartstrings. You have to wear your heart on your sleeve somewhat with this company, particularly around the parks, but with everything, because actually you're dealing with people's emotions all the time, because every film it tugs on your heartstrings.
Yeah.
When you go to the parks, when you meet characters, when you go on attractions, when you interact with cast members, it's all about your emotions. It's all about how you feel. We love Disney because of the way that it makes us feel. We don't love Disney because it brings brilliant spreadsheets out and tells us to do park reservations, and isn't it great that we've got all these numbers because we've got these park reservations and we can put cast members here. We don't care about that. What we just want to do is have a great time feeling and embracing our emotions. And only really and truthfully, only somebody that has big dreams, has a real creative flair, can really, I believe, can run this company successfully. Because you have to listen to the fans. The fans are a massive part of the Walt Disney Company. You have to listen to them. And for whatever reason, it felt like Bob Chapek didn't want to do that. And I just think everything that he's done from day dot within the parks, when he was the president of vice president of the parks, and all the other bits that went with it, you could just see how things were being chipped away. Things like entertainment was being chipped away, cast members were being chipped away. You could see what his vision or lack of vision was. Actually, the vision was, let's make as much money as we possibly can. And actually, that hasn't worked in the long term because, as Andy said and you said, we've got a situation now where they seem to be making lots of money, but actually their share price is falling and tumbling. So it's not making a blind bit of difference, the amount of money that they're making in their quarterly figures, even though I believe the last quarterly figures weren't so good.
No, quarter four was nowhere near what they expected it to be. It was, I can't remember off the top of my head now, but it was in terms of the report itself, that was probably the nail in the coffin, to be honest.
Yeah. And then we've been seeing things like rumors like cast members being cut, people, job cuts, etc. I mean, within the parks, they can't sustain that because they can't deal with the people that they've got already.
I was going to say they haven't got enough cast members in the parks as it is right now to deal with the amount of guests that are in there. Walt Disney World right now.
Exactly. So where those job cuts were coming, but was Disney saying there were job cuts coming because actually the job cut that they were going to do was Bob Chapek,
was the CEO.
So I think I'm pleased with its development.
You never said, Lewis.
You couldn't tell, could you? I've been rambling on for 5 minutes, but it's definitely. I mean, I can only hope and pray that going forward we will see some significant changes to how the company is run.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you look at really what some of the messes that Chapek initiated during his 3 years, 2 and a bit years as CEO, the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, staying silent on that was probably the worst thing at the time. He just stayed silent. There was no involvement, and you had cast members wanting wanting the company to get involved with that. Not to mention all the nickel and diamond, ticket increases and things like that. And then, of course, you've got the ever lovable Genie Plus to throw into the mix. That's a Chapek baby, isn't it? And that, people lost their minds the other day when it shot to $29 a person, and was like, oh well, is this what's going to happen now? Iger's back, and it's no, calm down. It was always going to hit $29 on this day, regardless of who the CEO was.
Yeah,
always,
absolutely. Yep.
And
always.
And anybody who knows anything about the way things, go, it's patterns and trends. Like, TV companies this time of year will always try and push movies because people are at home watching TV.
Yeah.
Normally you would see a cancellation in football, but the World Cup's on. There's always going to be people who go on holiday in Easter holidays. They know when the patterns and the trends are. So, like you say, it was always going to hit $29 for that day.
I can guarantee to you, when I'm in those parks next April during Easter, and I look at Genie, and if Genie is still fluctuating in price daily as it is now, I can guarantee to you it's well over $20 a person.
Yeah.
Guarantee. There's no way, unless they decide now we're going to cap it back to 15 and it stays at 15 forever, or for the time being, there's no way next year 14 days of my trip is going to be $15 for Genie. No chance. No chance. And it's, should we just talk about Genie Plus now and what we think is going to happen with that?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, but before we do, can I just say something else about the whole Chapek thing? We have to remember that this is not just one guy.
No.
It wasn't just Mr. Paycheck. There was people, we talked about the Don't Say Gay thing. That's not in his kind of remit to kind of know what to say in that kind of situation. He's not that kind of a...
It's the people that are feeding him the advice to stay quiet as well. They're the ones that should be.
Absolutely. So this is all about the team, the people that he had around him. There's been loads of faux pas over the last couple of years, with things that have been said about people's, what was it? Let's reduce the size of the meals because of people's waistlines. It will help people's waistlines. That wasn't Chapek, but these are PR faux pas that are happening across the board and have happened for the last 18 months. And so we have to remember that this is not just Bob Chapek. This is a whole plethora of people that have kind of let the company down.
It's a company-wide issue.
Right. We've already seen Kareem Daniels go on with for Disney Media, and I think a lot of that's going to feed into the conversation we're going to have later in this episode when we talk about things going to Disney Plus. We've said it, haven't we, the last 3 years, whoever's in charge of media working with Bob Chapek doesn't like Pixar. There hasn't been a Pixar film at the cinema in 4 years. Why? All right, I definitely don't think Soul would have been strong to carry it off, but I think Luca would have done well. I think Turning Red was a fantastic film. Wasn't given an opportunity. The first Pixar movie to get to the cinema in the last 4 years was Lightyear.
Yeah.
So, I definitely think it's.
But don't forget as well. I think you're going to see even more push with Disney Plus.
It's definitely the market.
It's Iger's baby.
Yeah.
Don't forget, Disney Plus is Iger's baby. He is going to push that to the heavens and back.
Yeah.
He did before he left. He will now he's back. And he's going to obviously, and again, we'll get onto this later on in the episode when we talk about whoever may be stepping into the role of CEO once Iger does depart again. But he's going to want somebody that understands Disney Plus every nook and cranny on how Disney Plus works, how everything's set up. They'll need to know that.
See,
And that's
I
what I
slightly
think your
disagree
point
with
is,
that notion.
Andy. But that's what I think your point is when it comes to
Yeah.
Chapek. He didn't know
See,
every nook and cranny of Disney Plus. I will be surprised, when he stands there talking about Star Wars or something like that. He looks like a deer in the headlights half the time because he doesn't have a clue actually what he's talking about. And it wouldn't surprise me if he, didn't know who Mickey Mouse was come the end of. If you've watched the Mickey Mouse documentary on Disney Plus, Bob
yeah,
Iger appears in it, but where's Chapek? Where's the current CEO?
yeah.
He's
No,
not there because he doesn't care for the character of Mickey and the personality of Mickey the way the likes of Bob Iger, Walt Disney himself, Roy Disney. Bob Iger absolutely adores that character. He understands everything Mickey Mouse stands for, where Bob Chapek clearly didn't have a clue what Mickey Mouse stood for or what he stands for.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's your difference there straight away.
yeah. I think it's more about the passion for the product. I mean, I don't think the CEO has to know it inside and out. I think he has to have a good, or she, or they, needs to have a good understanding of the emotion behind it. Have the passion for the product. My CEO is very passionate for my company, and he's very, very enthusiastic talking about the direction he wants to see us go. But he doesn't know half the things the CIO knows about technology. He doesn't know anything about the finance side of things. But I think you're right in saying that the head of media needed to be able to be that person to engage in the passion. It's
It's not just that as well, but I think if you're gonna have your CEO stand in front of a crowd of people and say, we've got this coming to Disney Plus, and it's a new Marvel series or a new Marvel movie or Star Wars or something like that.
yeah,
He needs to at least understand what he's talking about. And I
yeah,
never got that feeling that whenever he spoke about a Disney Plus project or a movie or anything like that, I never got the feeling he understood what the hell he was talking about.
no. Have you guys read the Bob Iger's autobiography, Ride of a Lifetime?
No, I haven't.
There
So
is a
I've got it, but I haven't read it yet.
No.
so I'll hold my hands up. I haven't actually read it. I've listened to it to an Audible when I was driving around with work. But around about the time of the acquisition of Marvel and all that was going on towards the end of his tenure as CEO, he talks about Black Panther, that basically in his view that was the most important film of a generation. Now, not specifically just because it was a superhero, not because it was an African American superhero, but because of what the film represented in terms of cultural uniformity, about compassion, and about tolerance, and about coming together for the greater good. And like you say, I have never once heard Bob Chapek have that level of enthusiasm about a product and
Or empathy
empathy. Yeah,
about
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? I think that's part of the problem. I never felt that Chapek loved Disney. I never felt that he came across, and maybe he was just unfortunate in the way that he came across and spoke. But I never felt like you say, guys. He spoke with any kind of passion. He kind of spoke with any empathy. He kind of had the feels for what was going on. And I think that was one of his biggest downfalls. He probably did. He might have done. We could never even know, because you could never tell that whether he was sincere or not.
No.
like I said before, he was probably a very, very nice person, but just didn't hit the spot as a CEO. It's
And again, I won't knock him for the work he did with consumer products
no,
because that's the reason why he ended up in the position he was, because he done a damn good job with consumer products. But again, like we've just said, he's come from a place where you don't you're there to make money. I know everyone's there to make money, but consumer products is right, what can we make? What can the families, what can the families buy? What can we get them to buy? Okay, we got a new movie. Okay, you guys go and do this. We'll get these toys out. We'll get this line of merchandise out. Let's get the money in. Blah blah blah. You don't you don't have any empathy. You don't have any love. You don't have any passion for getting to know the characters and the stories that are being told by this company. So when when they look at the figures and they go, wow, look at the money Consumer Products is making. Oh, Bob Chapek. Oh, okay. He's one to look at in the future. And at the time, Bob Iger probably thought it was probably the only choice he had when he was stepping down, was to bring in Chapek as the CEO. But like you said earlier, Lewis, it very quickly turned into right, okay, I have messed up big time here, because he doesn't actually know what's needing to be done. And I've said it 1,000 times. Bob Iger's last meeting in front of the board and the cast members was, don't turn this company into a statistic. He turns up, right, I'll introduce Mr. Chapek. Mr. Chapek steps up. Okay, we're now a data-driven company. What we were saying earlier. And it was doomed to fail from the start, really, I think. And I think the Walt Disney Company need to look at really not promoting from Consumer Products again to CEO, because I think it has been an utter miserable failure on all counts.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, and when we look at the things that Chapek has done recently, and when you're talking about products, and you're talking about, like, for example, when we're talking about Genie Plus, Disney Genie and Genie Plus, because we were talking about that earlier, and that really is a typical kind of Chapek type of product. It's that kind of nickel and diming kind of scenario, which fits really well. If you're looking at a merchandise type scenario, how can I get the most out of merchandise? I mean, people will pay big bucks for it, but that's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to pay their money for certain bits of merchandise, that's a choice. But when you bring things like Disney Genie and Genie Plus Disney Genie Plus into the parks, where things have, I know it's still a choice, but it when it affects the emotional experience, that's where things start going completely wrong. So, do I think it's going to stay? I don't know. But I suspect it probably will.
I think it's staying. I don't see it going anywhere.
No, I agree. I think it's going to stay.
I don't see it going anywhere.
I think it'll go very similar to what the Max Pass was like at Disneyland, California. It'll be a set fee for the day, like it is at Universal, and it's not going to be per ride. And it will do that to A, make the investors happy, and B, to make the population of Disney fans happy. Because most people, you listen to the Days a few years back, and you'll hear their team talk about how amazing that pass is at Disneyland. And I think,
well, they don't even have that anymore. They've got Genie as well now.
No, but I think the Genie will evolve into that, or that at least become a flat fee for the entire day, rather than hey, it's $20 for every ride you want. I mean, how much is the pass at Universal for the day?
Well, actually, it's about $65, $70. I think it is. It's quite expensive.
It is quite expensive, but there's a reason for that with Universal, because they want you to stay in their hotels and you get it for nothing.
Yeah.
That's the reason for it. Where's the incentive for Disney fans to stay in a Disney resort?
Right, exactly.
There's
very little now.
If someone was to say to me tomorrow, oh, by the way, when you've got your 2-3 nights at Animal Kingdom next year, you're going to get 3 lightning lanes a day.
Yeah.
Oh, all of a sudden my ears perk up.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, I wonder how much it is for me to extend the stay, maybe 4 or 5 nights,
Mm.
because maybe that payment outweighs, it is the chance to get lightning lanes outweighs the price to pay for the extra days or something like that.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are no perks right now.
Yeah.
When it comes
I
to the
mean,
genie and lightning lanes and that.
and as you say, like, effectively, if we say for a lightning lane, for a paid lightning lane, it's a $15 product, say, an average.
Mm-hmm.
So you give 3 of those away, that's $45 per day, per night, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
But you think of how much it costs to stay on resort.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's money for old rope, really. If you're saying that here's that perk back, it's like there's no real investment in it for them, and actually it's a massive draw, to bring in particularly guests from abroad like us from the UK back into. I see from an agency point of view, people wanting to stay on site less because there isn't the draw to do so.
Yeah.
Other than that,
we're only staying on property next year because of the DVC points, and we just didn't want them to run out.
Yeah.
Or I can't be bothered to try and sell them again at this point, and I wanted to use them because I haven't actually used my points yet since we got them. So that's why we're doing a couple of nights. But if I didn't have the DVC, I'd be in no rush to get back on property.
Yeah. I'm seeing people wanting to stay close by, off property, or in villas. That's what I'm seeing mostly.
Right.
That's where the price point is right now.
I tell you what. Sorry, Lewis, go on.
Go on. No.
I was going to say what perk they could return if they really wanted to get people back in the hotels. Magical Express.
And again, it's something that could easily be put back into place, and is actually going to cost them very little to do.
Because look how expensive car hire is now. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys want to come to Disney World? Well, we'd love to, but we can't afford to hire a car. It's all right. Magical Express will pick you up at MCL and take you back. Let's book.
Yeah. I mean, if the Sunshine Flyer can do it for $15 or whatever it is, it's not a lot of money. Surely Disney can partner with Sunshine Flyer and just say this is part of your package.
Yeah.
They're the ones with the buses shaped like trains.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
They are funky though.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's, for me, these are no-brainer things that should be coming back, but we don't know whether they're going to. But I do think if you're looking at, like we've just talked about, the fourth quarter and the numbers, etc., like that, I too tend to think that I would imagine that the next year or so is probably not, for on-site guests in Walt Disney World, is not looking quite as rosy as they probably wanted it to be. And I think that they're going to have to start putting some offers out there to entice guests.
They've just put a DVC members discount on the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser today.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that doesn't surprise me, and I think we're going to see more of that. And I actually think, to be honest with you, I think Star Cruiser is going to come down in price ridiculously.
Yeah. So they've offered. Sorry.
Go on. No,
they've offered. They've offered DVC members 30% off the original points.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
30%. How bad must those bookings be?
Yeah.
But the problem is, and we've talked about this before, and we're getting off topic a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a non-sustainable product, and it was another one of. I feel like it was one of Chapek's brainchilds. I mean, it came in on his watch. He seemed to be pushing it. But it's a non-sustainable product because it doesn't seem to be any kind of or
Like
enough
rewritability,
rewritability,
Yeah.
reusability.
Yeah.
I know there was some funky rooms that people could get to and couldn't get to, and all that kind of stuff. But do you really want to pay £2,500 a pop to try and find one of those rooms? I don't think so. When essentially the storyline's going to be the same. It's but I've not done it, so I can't really fully comment on it. But from the outside looking in,
Yeah.
and being a Star Wars fan, it just seems a bit of a nonsensical thing to do.
Yeah.
Me and you, I know if you turn around and said to me next week, Andy, we've got complimentary tickets, the three of us to go. We're going to go spend the 2 nights there. We would nerd out massively. We'd have massive geekdom going on.
Definitely.
We'd love it. But the truth is, like you said, there's no rewritability. I mean, it's Christmas, right? We could tell by Danny's decorations in the background.
Is it?
Where's the Life Day celebration storyline? You know, where's the let's do a storyline with bounty hunters? So this time it's actually not Kylo Ren that's going to board it. Let's have.
But do those stories fit in between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker? Because if they don't, then according to the timeline of Galaxy's Edge and Disney and the Star Cruiser, those stories and characters don't belong anywhere. Hence why we haven't got Mando, Grogu, or anything like that.
Right. So great example. Pirates. You know, they do like the Pirates cruise. Like there's specifically a 4-day cruise in the Disney Dreamland. It's all Pirates themed, not just one night. Do a Pirates cruise on the Star Cruiser with Hondo Ohnaka being in charge and making absolute farce of it all. That we know that's set within the time frame because it's Hondo that gets you in the Millennium Falcon. So, you know, Resistance training camp. You know, there's so many different things.
There is a lot of things that they could do with it, but you know that's a topic for another day. But it's just another one of, in my book, it's just another one of Chapek's classics.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. So, I mean, things like obviously the dining plan. Obviously, we haven't got a return of that yet, or any kind of return date. Personally, I think this will probably come back. I think it's more of a staffing issue than it is we don't want to hand it out. I think it's once they get the cast members back in place where they want them and they get all the restaurants back up and running to where they want them to be, then I would expect the dining plan to return once that's happened. I don't know what you guys think, but to me, I think the dining plan is a no-brainer to bring back.
I agree, definitely, and I agree with you that the staffing issue. I mean, it's funny. I'm you guys know, but the listener doesn't know that I'm actually sitting in the hotel room in Malta at the moment, and I've been going around visiting different hotels today, and I've had a really interesting conversation with one of the sales managers at one of the hotels here in Malta and Valletta, and they're saying like over the summer they could not get the staff to cope with the people that they had in resort. And so it's not just a Florida thing; it's a worldwide thing.
Yep.
But the problem is, hospitality in general is a really quite low-paid position, low-paid job. What the pandemic has done is kind of then taken people out of their comfort zones in hospitality, put them into different roles where they're getting paid more and they don't want to come back to hospitality.
Yeah.
So therefore, what Disney needs to do, and other hospitality and parks and everything else, they need to raise their game and pay more, which actually then is going to be passed on to the consumer at some point. I already feel that Disney are doing that anyway. So there is no reason why they can't increase their pay to their very amazing and hardworking cast members, actually get those genuine cast members back into play, because I think that will make a hell of a lot of difference. And I think we haven't really kind of talked about Bob Iger coming in, but I think Bob Iger is, and I know he's got a whole company to consider, and it's not just the parks, and we focus very much on the parks.
Yeah.
However, I think he's more of a visionary. He understands the fan. He understands what the guests needs, and I think he will kind of say, "Look, how do we get people to come back so we can give a full offering to our guests?" And I think that that will be a short term plan of, okay, let's get more cast members. How do we do that? Probably have to pay them more, get them into the service industry, and then they can open up the restaurants so we can enjoy garden grill breakfasts and 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 then the dining plan can come back because we're actually craving for it. And I think actually, as an on-site guest, I'd quite be happy to pay for some of it, or if not all of it, because it's a good tool.
Yeah,
it's a good thing to have.
Yeah,
so
even if it's just quick serve, like I've had the quick service before.
Yeah,
brilliant, work wonders. Work wonders.
I was looking at some jobs recently because you guys know I'm studying a degree in cybersecurity and IT, and trying to think about my next steps in a couple of years when I graduate. So I'm trying to get ideas like I'm planning for. And one job I was looking at was an iOS app developer security analyst. Funnily enough, working for Disney, based out their New York tech office. And I didn't realize, and I should have done, it was quite a naive thought, that depending on your role within the Disney corporations, your benefits are different. So obviously, Bob Iger is going to have mega benefits compared to Billy Bob over there.
That works at the popcorn cart in the Magic Kingdom. Yeah.
But funny enough, I was looking at it while I was watching an episode of The Office where they're trying to get Dwight to decide what level of health benefits you're going to have. Well, it's the simple things. Increase the basic salary, definitely. Increase the benefits. If you've got a worker that doesn't want to come back and say $25,000 a year because they're on the basic health benefits, that doesn't cover their kids, increase it to cover the kids. Look, use the Chapek analogy of looking at a cost analysis and see how much on often your staff would actually report sick and use that benefit. Would it not be cheaper just to turn on and say for an extra $5,000 per year per member of staff on the front line, let's increase their dental, let's increase their health benefits, let's lower their deductibles so they don't have to pay more if they need to go and get their medication.
Whatever a 401k is.
Yeah, increase. Well, that's the pension plan, isn't it?
There you go. I knew that.
Little bits like that, just increase the attraction for working for the company, because the money's great, right? I've had jobs that have paid me an absolute fortune and I've hated them. I've had jobs that have barely paid me enough to keep me roof over my head and I've loved them. What you need to do is foster an attitude of people coming to a company and saying, I love working for this company even though I'm not earning a great deal because I get X, Y, and Z covered. Absolutely. And, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, but I'm absolutely happy with that. And it is those benefits. As soon as I left my last company, whose name I refuse to utter anymore, I lost a mega benefit that actually would cost me over £1,200 a year. I just got rid of that thing. No longer wanted it anymore. We know the Disney dining plan is an incentive, and if they're saying it's a staffing issue, then re-incentivize. If I work at Disney and I say, Lewis, come work at this job, it's great. Give me $2,000 for introducing that man there, or there, wherever you are. All the things that companies seem to be doing, but for some reason Disney aren't. Let's get people back to work.
Yeah.
Over.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know Iger's got a hell of a job on to obviously turn around what's happening with the company, and what's happened to the company. And obviously we're not going to go across all remits of the company, because ultimately we are just going to try and discuss the park elements. So are there any things that pop into your heads straight away on what Iger might do to change the parks in the future? Oh, the man with the facial hair with his hand up. Yep.
The fifth gate.
Oh, okay.
let's be honest. We've talked about it a hell of a
Here
lot.
we go again. Oh,
Do you think Bob Iger is going to sit down and look at the board and go, guys, why the hell are we not designing a fifth gate in response to what Universal's do, so we can open it a year or two afterwards and steal all those customers?
Because they're using Fantastic Beasts, which is a dead franchise, and Disney don't care about that. That's why.
Can I just
question
ask?
here?
Can I just ask a question though? Okay, I mean, okay, so we're chuffed to bits that Bob Chapek is going, yeah.
yeah.
But
Here
but
we-
genuinely how do we feel about Bob Iger coming back?
I didn't mind Iger when he was here for round one. I think he did a lot more good than he did bad. And that's company wide as well, not just parks. It goes to when Michael Eisner is tweeting you saying welcome back, you probably shouldn't have left. I'm excited to see what Iger does on his return. Although I have just seen something flash up on my phone from WDWNT that states there is reports that claim Disney could be sold to Apple under returning CEO Bob Iger. I haven't read obviously the news article yet. It's just a headline for now, and I'll look into that later. But there's that.
Well, Apple's got the money.
Well, yeah.
I'd find that very odd. I'd find that
Welcome.
really, really odd.
Welcome to Spaceship Earth, sponsored by AirPods.
But yeah, I'd find that really odd.
Yeah.
But weirder things have happened, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I mean,
if you forget I even said that, because to be honest, it's irrelevant right now.
Yeah,
I think I'm excited to see what he can try and do to fix the chaos that has ensured in the parks. Again, like I said, we know it's company wide, but the parks is what we're going to discuss. I think one is the morale. He needs to bump that up, and I think he's probably the right man to bump that morale up. My thing is how are him and Josh Tomorrow going to get on? Because I think.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you think there's an issue there?
I don't know, but I think Josh is. I'm interested to see where Iger coming back takes Josh, because I really like Josh in his role.
You see, I have a theory that actually Bob Iger kind of mistakenly put Chapek in because, as you said, he saw these kind of wonderful results, and then, but actually then realised when they were kind of joint chairman CEO type scenario, he kind of saw the man in the position, and actually realised this is not the personality, the ideal for the company, but then knew or has seen Josh and the way that he dealt with people during the pandemic, dealt with the cast members, went in, shook their hands when they were coming back, all that kind of stuff. And as actually just went, and I think actually that this 2-year transitional period, and this is just my opinion, is actually a 2-year transitional period to get Josh Tomorrow ready for the role.
Okay.
That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, that thought has gone through my mind as well. I think the only problem you've got with that is Josh is very much a parks person and doesn't probably know the rest of the company, which is smack bang what we discussed earlier with Chapek being consumer products and not knowing the rest of the company.
But would you not think, knowing and seeing the personality of what Josh Tomorrow is, would you not think that he has the aptitude to learn more.
I absolutely do.
Hence, why that
do.
2-year process is actually going to be really key.
Yeah, I absolutely think Josh Damaro can be the sponge that Bob Iger needs him to be, take everything in and learn from him, and possibly take up the role of CEO in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, whenever Iger decides, right, it's time to hang up the old boots again. And I really like Josh, and I like what he's done in the parks, and I think he's I'd love to meet him in person, because I'd very much like to shake his hand and say hello. And
He's a people person. He's
Right,
that's
emphatic.
it. I look at Josh
Yeah.
Damaro and I think I could approach you and say hello, shake your hand, and you go, wicked, and he'll go, hi, what's your name? And he'll say hello back. Okay, right, I have to go now, but da-da-da-da-da. Whereas if I saw Chapek and I tried to do that to him, I might as well be talking to like a lamppost or something.
But brush her off, man.
Yeah,
Brush her off.
yeah.
But I mean, like, and when you say things like that about he's a people person, and who does that remind you of in the parks?
Iger.
No, it reminds me of Walt Disney.
Walt.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Walt, because he walked the parks. He spoke to the people,
Everyone.
and he wanted to know what those people thought about his park.
Yeah.
And actually, that's key, absolutely key. And you know, like I say, we talk about just the parks, and I'd love to see him have that opportunity actually for this next year to do those blue sky thinking and get those bits of blue sky thinking actually into action, and have the freedom to make changes that affect the guests in a positive manner.
Yeah.
And then maybe over the following couple of years, you know, get into the CEO type role.
Yeah.
But you know, I think he genuinely seems to be the guy that I would like to see take that next step up.
And he was brave enough at the D23 Expo to go, the 2 fireworks shows suck, and we're bringing back some old stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know,
they
were JPEG babies as well. So,
and it's.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to say, you know, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Harmonious. I don't mind it at all.
I must admit, I do like it. The one at Magic Kingdom whose name I won't remember is atrocious.
Enchantment is
That's the one.
is disappointing. It doesn't give you the feels. But there you go. And again, that's where we're back to that again, isn't it? We're back to
how does it make you feel?
The emotional connections that we have with the parks and with the films and everything like that. And that's what sells. For most people, that is what sells, that emotional connection.
Yeah. Which, again, going back to what we said earlier, is also something that Bob Iger has with the parks as well.
Yeah.
Because he cares about the product, he cares about the characters, he cares about what we think. And it's quite clear that he cares about what we think and what the cast members think, because he's come back. And I don't think if he didn't, I don't think he would have. So I think he's got so much love. And okay, the paycheck will probably come in handy as well, but it's, you know, he's back and he knows the job he needs to do to fix the absolute crap show that he.
Well, when the first thing that you do is write to the entire company, all the you know, the cast members, every
single cast member got an email.
Every single employee, and say, "I'm so proud to be back. Let's do this," kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know that he actually is really, really chuffed to be back. And also, I mean, there has been a lot of talk about him having some kind of political aspirations, and that, for one reason or another, hasn't turned into anything. And for the next kind of point in time. Sorry.
I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on, right? Okay. Biden's definitely going to run again. We know that for certain. Do you think he's come back into the job to stop somebody around saying, all right, Biden's not going to do it. We want you to go against Trump?
I don't think so, because I don't think he's got that much of a political career at the moment.
No.
So I think he needs to go into like a governor job first, before, and then Senate and all that kind of stuff. But so I don't. I'm sorry, I don't pretend to know much about American politics, apart from the fact that I love The West Wing.
Totally. Yeah.
Hamilton was also good.
Yes, but a lot further back.
Just to go back as well with what you're saying about Bob Iger emailing all the staff. I don't know if you guys know this. You know, he emailed the entire workforce 20 to 15 minutes before it was publicly announced that he wanted the workforce to know before the media knew.
Yeah.
Right? That says massive amounts to me. You know, you guys are more important than the Washington Chronicle or the New York Times. You will get it. And I bet you £1,000 that email was leaked to high heavens by everybody who got a pay with it.
I follow somebody on Twitter that tweeted saying, I think his name's Scott Gustin. He is on Twitter. He's a really, really good parks reporter, and he tweeted saying he received a text from a cast member friend with the email saying, "Oh, okay, so he went to double check and try and find a second source." And then 4 minutes after he received the original text, he got a text off another cast member friend saying it's real.
Yeah.
And then he was like, right, okay, now I'm going to report it.
Yeah. And I think actually that's probably one of the reasons that he's done that. Actually, and the company have allowed him to do that because they knew that it would be a genuine leak out, so they wouldn't have to have leaked it out to the press in any way, shape, or form. No. It's just like, there you go. And then because I actually, when we were talking about it on our messenger group, I was kind of thinking, oh, do we just wait until the Walt Disney Company make an official announcement, which they hadn't at that point when it was all kind of leaking out.
Yeah.
But when you were just seeing that every single Disney news outlet, and then Reuters, and then the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal, and everybody was kind of like starting to report on it. You kind of think this is serious, this is real, and so fair play.
Yeah.
And I agree, Andy. I think that's the kind of leadership that has been lacking.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Danny, in the sense that kind of leadership then promotes a positive attitude to so many other employees that work for the Disney company, the Walt Disney Company. And I can only assume that because, and it's helped the stock price, but I don't think actually that should be the underlying point here, because I think if the Walt Disney Company board actually got their brains in gear, they would see what most people, like laymen's like us, who don't work in stocks and shares and don't work in massive business, can actually see that the way that you build this company is actually on the fundamentals that was given to them from the very outset by Walter and Roy. And why change that? Because they turned. I know they had some ups and downs, and some serious ups and downs, but they turned the company into something absolutely massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Just thinking about the paycheck mistakes and faux pas. I know we've obviously talked about Genie Plus. Where do you guys sit on park reservations? Do you think Bob Iger's going to keep that? Do you think he's going to turn around and say, listen, guys, these are going to go, but the capacity standards will still stay. We're not going to use an app where, you could be in your hotel one day. It's absolutely lovely. You think, you know what? I'm just going to have a wander over to the Magic Kingdom and see if I can get in.
I don't think they're going anywhere either. Much like Genie, I don't think they're going anywhere because I think it works too well for the company.
I think while they're having staff issues still, it will be in
Again,
place.
It could be a staffing thing as well now.
Yeah. However, I personally think that as somebody who, and I think I said this in a message earlier on today, and you already said this, Danny, you can't run the Walt Disney Company on statistics.
Yeah.
And actually, I think if they look at this properly, and if Bob Iger goes back to Josh and says, is this really working for us? Are we seeing the best out of us? I think, like, long term, they'll think this is not a positive thing for guests' satisfaction. And you've got to look at guest satisfaction because long term, it's okay now because we've come out of a pandemic and everybody's desperate to go and all that kind of stuff. But how many people do we know that have gone and said, I don't really want to go back if there's a park reservation system because it's just absolute faff.
Yeah, you could do a week at Universal and not have to book a park reservation at all.
Absolutely.
I've got the same argument over here with Merlin as well, and the fact that we have to book up park reservations over here for Thorpe Park, Chesterton, and all that stuff. Yeah. I've got the same issue. I don't think it needs to be done now. Parks are back to being open properly, and they should be back to being at full capacity with staff in place. And if the staffing isn't in place, then that is the thing that needs to be fixed over the next 6 months. Like we were saying earlier, we need to pay these people what they're worth and get them into the job and get them doing that job and get the capacity back up to get people back in the park. Ultimately, if you can do that, you're going to make your money back because, let's be honest, you're going to... The extra guests are going to pay for the extra cast members and their hourly wage with what they buy in merchandise or what they buy in food.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think there's a couple of elements to the park reservations that will have a detrimental effect to park capacity. So obviously, we know that it stresses people out because if they want to change their mind a couple of days in advance, generally, if you want to go to Magic Kingdom or to Hollywood Studios, there's no hope in hell you're going to get a reservation changed in within a week, effectively. So that causes an issue. So what happens is, from what I think happens is that people will make, for example, Magic Kingdom reservations for the whole stay, and then change them to Animal Kingdom, whatever, just beforehand. So that means that there are reservation availability, at some point, which basically means that if there wasn't a reservation, because people feel the pressure to have a reservation for a specific park.
Yeah,
there's no freedom of will to change their mind. Change your mind, really, and you feel like you have to use it. I think most people feel like they have to use it. Some won't, but I think generally. So I think that you're forcing people to have an experience, whereas it will actually even itself out if there's just free will, because effectively people want to change their minds. People want to park hop. People want to have that freedom of turning up or not turning up. And I think actually that whole situation where have we got enough cast members in to facilitate the need, I think that it will naturally even itself out anyway. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think there will be a natural kind of leveling out because
of course it's gonna and then the arc is going to come back round. It will level itself back out again. and you will
Yeah.
end up with enough. You will end up with enough cast members and guests in the parks at the same time.
It happened pre-pandemic. Why can't it happen like
Yeah.
after the? I mean, I know there's still COVID around and stuff, but we're dealing with it differently. So but it's like, why can't we go back to that?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying go back to the past. I'm just saying why fix something that isn't broken?
Open. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, I also think the best thing Bob Iger can do is get the railroad and Tron open.
Yeah.
And I mean ASAP.
Yeah.
Because they're testing it. We know it's working. It's just whether the inside of that building is finished. And let's be honest, if it's meant to be opening up in spring, that inside of the building should really be 99% finished in there.
I would imagine that when they talk in spring, because we still haven't been given a date yet, have we?
No, we haven't. There is a rumor going around that March is.
Yeah, so I was thinking early March. I think actually not long after the new year, once the Christmas decks start coming down, I think they'll start doing cast previews.
Yeah.
And then
I so want to go on it. It looks fun.
Yeah. So I think they will. But yeah, going back to Mr. Iger, I think there were so many things that he could potentially do, and as you say, it's a massive. Really, it's a bit of a car crash. What he's come back to, and there is only so much he can do because there's only so much he'll have the budget to do.
Yeah.
And so it's picking and choosing those battles. But I think if we're talking parks and we're talking about longer term benefits for the parks and enticing guests to come back, the things that we've discussed, which is losing park reservations and bringing out some perks for staying on site, and definitely thinking about the dining plan. I think they're key issues that kind of need to be dealt with quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, coming back to the conversation point there, saying about limited budget, one of the biggest issues we've had in the last year, and this is on the back of the Don't Say Gay, was it?
It was around the same time. Are you talking about Reedy Creek and all that stuff?
Yeah. So obviously, due to Chapek finally speaking out, he obviously upset. Is it Greg DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who went, right, that's it. We're going to remove your contract that allows you to own the Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Yeah.
Which has not only took away benefits of having that free will to do things on site, but speaking to friends of mine in the property market up there, has also raised land prices and property fees in Central Florida. Do you think this is something Iger's going to go back to the table and say, guys, we need to get this back? What do we need to do with the state of Florida? Or who do we know in Washington that can go head this back straight away? Because that's going to save them money in the long run.
He will probably deal with it in some shape or form.
Yeah.
Not sure how, because I'm not gonna lie. I don't really know the ins and outs of the whole Reedy Creek, story. I know he was like, oh, we're going to take it off you because I'm weirdo and I don't like what you've said, and it was like school bullying, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I think Iger will deal with it. I don't know how high on his priority list Reedy Creek is going to be. I imagine it's probably going to be somewhere mid to low bottom of his list to deal with in terms of fixing things. It's just it's a bizarre one, really.
Sorry, for some reason my internet connection went a bit funny, and I kind of missed the whole question, Andy. But I think if you're, I think with the really quick situation, isn't it the case that actually the contracts are in such a way that there's nothing that the Florida governor can do about it, particularly, or I know they're kind of dragging it through the courts, etc. But it's actually there's nothing they can really do about it. So, as Danny said, I don't think it's going to be a high priority thing, because it's all a bit huff and puff, if you ask me. It's just a bit of stuff and nonsense, and and I wonder if it's if it was a little bit kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm blaming Chapek for everything now, because I can.
Because it's his fault.
Yeah, but maybe they just had he just didn't. Maybe they just didn't get on. I can see somebody like Iger coming in and just smoothing that path right over.
Yeah.
And and dealing with it.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think it's going to be that kind of high on the priority list. So
fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But it's good that he's back.
Yeah, exactly. Hurrah! Huzzah! Yes. I mean, have you got any more sort of honourable mentions of things that Iger might want to fix, or do we think that's discussion over and we are?
I will add one thing, and I think there's something that somebody mentioned on Twitter. I can't remember if it's Twitter or one of our social media pages. They were talking about DC naming James Gunn and another chap the head of DC Cinematic Universe, and
Yeah, that was on my Facebook.
it was on your Facebook. Why, is he going to look at things and go, right, we know Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau can do Star Wars, so are we going to see any sort of really like blue sky fanboy moments where
get rid of Kathleen Kennedy and bring those two in to run Star Wars and Lucasfilm? Yeah,
isn't she retiring anyway?
I think she's due to retire, isn't she? But
yeah, I think she will.
I think
good,
with the exception of Rogue One and the Jon Favreau stuff, like Mandalorian, Ahsoka that's coming out, and as well as even Boba Fett, have been probably the most successful platforms. And Obi-Wan was fairly decent as well. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not sure that would be kind of high in his remit, but
depends if it's going, if it's just to sort Disney Plus, like we were saying earlier. Disney Plus is it's his baby, really, when it comes to, and he loves it all the online streaming stuff. He knows the company can make money, and even more money with Disney Plus. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point, Andy. Definitely, especially when you look at what Feige's not going anywhere.
No,
so Marvel are sorted.
Yep.
I think it is. I think Lucasfilm is the one you need to look at. I think Pixar are fine, and I think Disney Animation Studios and Disney Studios are fine.
Well, they were sorted by him, weren't they? When they got rid of what's his face, they brought in Jennifer.
Lee.
Jennifer Lee, yeah, and then it's not Brad Bird, is it Andrew Stanton?
One of the above.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, listeners. It's now 11:20 at night, and my brain is now turning into smush. So God knows what you're like, Lewis.
12:20.
Oh. Right. I think that is going to do it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed our little chat about Bob going and Bob coming back. And, if you did, we would very much appreciate thumbs up on the video. Even subscribe if you want to. That would be amazing. We'd love it. You can also follow us on the socials. That's Facebook and Instagram at WDW UK NEWSCAST.
And let us know your thoughts.
On
it. We'd love to hear what.
Yeah, we would actually
love to hear what people think about it.
Yeah, good or bad, we can take it on the chin. Don't you worry about that. But so yeah, we'd love to hear what you think of the episodes. Go back. We've got eight more in there, as well as our ride POVs and a couple of room tours that Andy did on his last trip. So go back, watch them. That'll be fun for you, I'd imagine. Cool.
It will. It will be fun.
It will be good.
Okay. Oh, we need to go to bed.
This is the pod you're looking for.
It is. It is. Right. Have a great, big, beautiful day, everybody. And remember, tomorrow is just a dream away.
Bye.
Bye, Bob.
Bye,
Bye, Bob.
Bob.
Bye, Bob.